Right now you are wearing two faces, and you only chose one of them. In 1862, in a hospital in Paris, a physician went hunting for the one you didn't choose. His method would get him thrown out of most buildings today. He found an older man whose condition had dulled the feeling in his skin, sat him down, and pressed 2 electrodes to his cheek. Then he ran a current straight into the muscles of the man's face to see which ones made which expressions. He could pull the mouth into a grin on command. The current fired, the lips drew back, and there it was. A smile, built to order. And it looked horrible. Dead, wrong in a way anyone could see and nobody could quite explain. Then something genuinely amused the man, and for half a second, a completely different smile crossed the same face. The mouth did roughly the same thing it had done before, but this time the muscles around the eyes joined in, the ones that crease the corners and lift the cheeks, and the whole expression turned from a grimace into something warm and real and unmistakably human. The physician could not build that second smile with his electrodes. He tried. The current would not summon it. His name was Guillaume Duchenne, and he wrote that the muscle around the eye is only put in play by a true feeling, that it does not obey the will, and that its absence unmasks the false friend. He'd found the seam. There is a face you operate, and there is a face that operates itself. They are not the same face. And as you're about to see, they are not even run from the same place in your head. Here's why that should matter to you more than almost anything else you learn this year. That first face, the one you chose, is the one you put on for the meeting, the one you arrange before the camera turns on. The polite mask you hold in place when somebody says the thing that lands harder than you'll ever let them see. You think it belongs to you, because most of the time it does what it's told. The other one, the one that just overruled an electrode, you have never in your life given an order it obeyed. And you have spent that whole life trying to win with the first one anyway. You think composure is something you do with your features, a performance you get better at, a mask you can sand down until it's seamless. And every time it has failed you, every time someone looked at your perfectly controlled expression and still said, "Hey, are you all right?" you assumed you just needed a better mask. You don't need a better mask. You're managing the wrong face entirely. So stay with me, because by the end of this, I'm going to hand you a single move. I call it killing the spike. It is not a trick you do with your face, because the face is the trap. It's one change you make a step before the face. The change that makes you genuinely hard to read instead of visibly straining to be. And I'm going to show you the exact thing to watch for, so you can see it happen. Live on the next person who sits across from you and performs their own calm at you. Start with the simplest version of the problem, the one you already know in your body. You have been on both ends of the dead smile. You've given it. Somebody points a camera at you, asks you to smile, and you produce something that you can feel is wrong even as you're doing it. The mouth obeys. The eyes don't. You look at the photo later, and there's a stranger in it wearing your clothes. And you've received it too. Someone tells you they're happy for you. They say all the right words. The mouth moves correctly, and some quiet part of you walks away thinking they didn't mean it, and you couldn't have explained how you knew. You weren't reading their words. You were reading which face they were using. That instinct is not soft. It is not people skills. It is the single most ancient piece of equipment you own, and it is reading a hardware difference, not a mood. Duchenne caught the edge of it with that eye muscle. The corners of your eyes are run by a system you can barely touch on purpose. Try it right now. Try to make your eyes smile while keeping your mouth flat, on command, from the outside in. You can't really do it. You can do a tense approximation that looks like you're in pain. The genuine version only shows up when something genuinely lands. That's not a quirk of one muscle. That's a clue about how the whole face is wired. And about 120 years after Duchenne, someone laid out exactly what that wiring is. In 1984, a researcher named William Wren published a review in the journal Psychological Bulletin pulling together decades of work on how the brain actually produces an expression. And the finding underneath all of it is the thing nobody selling you confidence tips will ever tell you. Your face is driven by 2 separate motor systems, 2 different sets of wiring, starting in 2 different parts of the brain, both ending at the same muscles. One is the voluntary system. It runs from the surface of your brain, the part you think with, the part that makes deliberate choices. This is the face you pose when you decide to smile for the photo, to look interested in the meeting, to keep your expression neutral while your stomach drops. This is the wire you're pulling. It is under your conscious command. It is also the only one that is. The other is the involuntary system. It runs from deeper, older structures, the part of the brain that handles feeling before you've decided anything. You do not have a switch for it. It fires on its own the instant an emotion hits, and it moves your face whether you authorized it or not. When you're genuinely delighted, genuinely disgusted, genuinely afraid, this is the system that paints it across your features in real time before the thinking part of you has even caught up. You've watched this wire overrule you in public, the serious meeting where something struck you as absurd and a laugh fought its way up your throat before you could stop it. The moment you opened a message with bad news and felt your whole face drop in front of people before you decided anything at all. The flush of color you couldn't talk your way out of while someone watched you get it. None of those were choices you made. That's the involuntary wire doing exactly the one thing it does, moving your face on the strength of a feeling, on its own clock, with zero regard for what you would have preferred to show. You don't notice it most of the time, only because most of the time you aren't trying to hide anything. The instant you are, it quietly becomes the most important fact in the room. Two wires. One you hold, one you don't. And here's the part that turns this from a curiosity into a weapon. When you keep a straight face, you are using the voluntary wire to hold your features still, but the emotion you're hiding is still firing down the involuntary wire at the same time. Both systems are live. Both are pulling on the same muscles. So what shows up on your face is not calm. It's the collision. It's the fear leaking out through the one channel you can't shut off, while you frantically paint over it with the one you can. And the painting is always a half step behind the leak. Always. Now, if I just told you two systems, trust me, you'd be right to push back. So let me show you the proof that they're genuinely separate, because it's some of the strangest evidence in all of neurology, and once you've seen it, you can never unsee the two faces again. Picture two people who've each had a small stroke. The first one is asked to smile. Go on, give me a big smile. And half their face won't cooperate. One side of the mouth lifts, the other hangs there, slack. It looks like exactly what you'd expect from a stroke, but then something across the room genuinely makes that same person laugh. And both sides of their face light up, symmetrically, fully. And the smile that wouldn't come on command arrives instantly, the moment it turns real. The voluntary wire is cut. The involuntary one works perfectly. The second person is the nightmare mirror of the first. Ask them to smile, and they smile, both sides, no problem. Clean and even. The voluntary wire is fine, but then something genuinely moves them. Real joy, real grief, and one half of their face just stays dead, frozen, in the middle of a true feeling, while the other half expresses it. The wire they can't control has been severed, and the wire they can has not. A team of German neurologists led by Hans Christian Hopf documented exactly this, writing in the journal Neurology in 1992. They called the two conditions volitional facial paresis and emotional facial paresis, and the point is brutally simple. The two failures come from damage in two different places in the brain. You can knock out the posed smile and leave the real one intact, or knock out the real one and leave the posed one intact. They are not one system having a bad day. They are two separate wires running to the same muscles. And a stroke can sever one while the other keeps firing as if nothing happened. Hold on to that, because here's where it stops being about stroke patients and starts being about the person sitting across from you, and about you. You are not missing either wire. In you, both are live, all the time. Which means in every charged moment of your life, your face is being driven by two systems at once, and you are consciously steering exactly one of them. The other one is broadcasting on its own frequency, and you have no dial for it. You never did. You just never knew it was on. So what does the broadcast actually look like, in real time, on a normal face that isn't trying to hide anything yet? This is where two American psychologists, Paul Ekman and Wallace Friesen, come in. In 1969, in a paper in the journal Psychiatry, they were studying something very specific. They were looking at film of people who were lying or hiding a strong feeling, frame by frame, and they noticed something that's almost invisible at normal speed. The true emotion would flash across the face first, full, clear, unmistakable. And then, a fraction of a second later, the deliberate expression would slam down on top of it to cover it up. The real face, then the mask, in that order every time. They called the leak nonverbal leakage. And the flash itself, the true feeling escaping before the cover arrives, could last as little as a 25th of a second. One frame of film, long enough to be there, short enough that the person watching usually doesn't consciously register it. They don't think I just saw fear. They just come away with a feeling. Something's off. I don't trust him. I don't know why. Now I want to be careful here, because this is exactly where the internet lies to you. Nobody becomes a human lie detector from one video. Reading the leak reliably is a trained skill, and most micro-expression experts online are selling you certainty they don't have. That's not the claim. The claim is much simpler and much harder to argue with. The leak is real. It happens on everyone. It happens on you. The involuntary wire fires the truth a beat before the voluntary wire can dress it up. And that gap, that tiny lag between the real face and the painted one, is a physical event, not a vibe. You felt this from the inside, even if you never had words for it. Think of the last time someone said something that hit harder than you wanted to show. A piece of news, a name you weren't ready to hear, a number that came in lower than you needed it to be. You did the thing. You held your face. You said something even and reasonable backs, but stark. Think the whole time you were aware of a half second you didn't quite get to in time, a flicker that escaped before you could lock it down. And you spent the rest of the conversation wondering whether they'd caught it. They probably did. Not in words, they just walked away with a read on you that you never agreed to give them. Assembled out of a single frame of footage your involuntary wire released before your voluntary one could finish the sentence. You weren't bad at hiding it. You were just a half step behind, the way everyone is. Because the wire that tells the truth always fires first. And that changes everything about what you've been trying to do. Because here is what almost everyone gets wrong, and it's the mistake that's been quietly costing you. When you decide to stay composed in a hard moment, you go to work on the voluntary wire. You set the jaw, you flatten the mouth, your eyes go deliberately still, and all that effort pours into the one face you can actually move, while you tell yourself the stillness you're manufacturing is composure. It isn't. It's the collision I described, made visible. You're holding one wire rigid while the other one keeps transmitting underneath. And the strain of holding it is itself a signal. People don't see calm. They see a person working very hard to look calm, which their own ancient equipment reads instantly as the opposite of calm. The held jaw, the slightly too still face, the smile that arrives a half second late and doesn't reach the eyes. Every one of those is the voluntary wire straining to cover for the involuntary one. You're not hiding the feeling. You're announcing that there's a feeling big enough to need hiding. This is the thing the loud, advice-soaked world has exactly backwards. It tells you composure is a performance you master, a face you learn to hold. But the face is downstream. The face is the last link in the chain, the one place you have the least real control. And it's the one place everyone's been telling you to fight the battle. You cannot win there. The wiring won't let you. You will always be a half step behind your own truth, painting over a leak that already happened. So you stop fighting at the face. You move the whole problem upstream. Here's the move I promised you, the one I called killing the spike. And it's going to sound almost too simple until you understand why it's the only thing that actually works. You do not try to control your expression. You control whether there's any spike for the involuntary wire to carry in the first place. No spike, nothing to leak. Think about what that means. The leak only leaks something. The micro-expression only flashes if there's a real spike of fear or anger or wanting to broad. If the spike is genuinely small, there is almost nothing for the second face to transmit. And the first face doesn't have to strain to cover anything, because there's nothing there. That's the difference you've been seeing your whole life, and misreading is talent. The people who seem impossible to read are almost never better actors than you. Most of them couldn't hold a fake calm any better than you can. They simply aren't generating the signal. Nothing is leaking because nothing is surging. Their calm is real, so their face is quiet. Because the only face that's ever truly quiet is the one with nothing underneath to hide. That is the whole game. And it's why this connects to everything else about staying unbothered. The composure that reads as power was never a facial skill. It's the absence of the spike. You get there by genuinely deciding, before you ever walk into the room, that the thing about to happen is not an emergency, that you don't need this outcome, that whatever they say, you can let it land and feel almost nothing, because you came in already fine. Do that and your face takes care of itself, for free, with zero effort, because there's no second broadcast to suppress. Fail to do that, and no amount of jaw setting will save you, because you'll be transmitting the truth on a channel you can't reach. Make it concrete. Tomorrow you have the conversation you've been dreading. The review, the hard call. The person who always finds the one sentence that gets under your skin and presses. The old move is to script your face for it in advance, to plan how you'll arrange your expression when they say the thing. Throw that out, because you already know which wire that's working, and it's the one that loses. Do the other work instead, the only work that travels all the way down to your features. Before you walk in, decide, and mean it, that you will be fine on the far side of this no matter which way it breaks, that you do not need their approval, or their number, or their apology to walk out of that room whole. You won't get all the way there, and you don't have to. To whatever degree you actually believe it, the spike simply doesn't come, and a face with no spike under it has nothing to leak and nothing to hold down. You'll have spent your preparation on the one wire that decides the whole exchange, instead of rehearsing the one that was never going to hold. Now turn it around, because you didn't come here only to be unreadable. You came to read the room better than anyone in it. Everything you just learned about your own face is true of every face you'll ever feel. The person across the desk, the one who's decided to look unbothered at you, who's performing the exact calm you used to perform. They are running the same doomed strategy. They are clamping the voluntary wire and praying the involuntary one stays quiet. And it won't. So you stop listening so hard to their words, and you start watching for the gap. The flash before the cover. The microsecond where the real thing shows before the arranged thing slams down. The smile that the eyes don't join. The stillness that's costing them visible effort to hold. And this isn't only old film from the 1960s. In 2008, two researchers named Stephen Porter and Leanne Ten Brinke, working at Dalhousie University, had people try to hold one expression while feeling the opposite, and filmed them frame by frame. The true feeling broke through anyway. Not for long, and not all at once. Just a flash of the real thing forcing its way between the muscles of the mask, in exactly the places the wiring predicts. They could not keep it off their faces, no matter how hard they worked the wire they controlled. Neither can the person sitting across from you. You won't catch every leak. Nobody does. But you'll catch the big ones, the ones that matter, because now you know they exist and you know exactly where they live. When you name your number and theirs flickers before they say, "Let me see what I can do," you'll have seen the answer before they spoke it. When someone tells you the thing designed to rattle you and watches your face for the reaction, they're not steady, they're performing steady, and the performance has seams, and the seams are information. You used to be the one being read. Now you're the only one in the room who knows the reading is even possible. Picture it concretely. A rival just lost something you won. The account, the promotion, the call that went your way instead of theirs. They walk over to you and they say all the right words. Honestly, congratulations, you earned it. Really happy for you. The mouth does its job perfectly, the sentence is flawless. But in the quarter second before it starts, while they're still crossing the floor toward you, you catch the rest of it. The jaw set a hair too tight, the smile that lands a beat late and stays down at the mouth, never climbing to the eyes the way Duchenne's real one did. The flat working stillness of a person holding a wire rigid so it won't move. You don't say a word about it, you don't need to. You already know, before they finish the first sentence, exactly where they actually stand, and you get to choose everything you do next from inside that knowing, while they walk away certain the performance worked. That is the entire trade you just made. They poured their effort into the face. You put yours into the only thing that was ever real underneath it. And the same logic protects you in reverse. Because the next time someone aims that warm, careful, eyes don't match smile at you to soften you up before the ask, you'll see the seam in it. And you won't move toward the bait the way you used to. There's exactly one way to throw all of this away, and it's worth naming, because you'll be tempted by it tomorrow. You'll hear all this and decide the move is to get better at the mask after all, to practice the calm face in the mirror, to learn to hold it longer, tighter, more convincingly. That's going back to the losing wire. Every hour you spend perfecting the performance is an hour spent on the one face that was never going to hold, while the face that actually gives you away keeps doing whatever your real state tells it to. You can't outact your own nervous system. You can only stop giving it something to confess. And once you do, something quietly shifts in the people who are used to reading you. Everyone prices everyone by the face. It's automatic, it's constant, and they've been doing it to you your whole life, glancing at your expression to see what landed. But the glance stops paying out. There's no flash to catch, no cover going up, because there was never a spike underneath to hide. They can't tell you what changed about you. They just find that the old reflex of mining your face for the answer has gone dead in their hands. And without ever deciding to, They start dealing with the words you actually say, because your face stopped doing their work for them. That is what the power of staying calm and not reacting under pressure looks like once you trace it all the way down to the wiring. Not a better mask, not a colder stare you practice. Two faces, one you hold and one you can't. And the quiet, permanent advantage that comes from finally giving up on the one you were never going to control and starving the one that gives you away. When it counts, and it will count before long, your move is no longer at the face. Don't set the jaw. Don't fix the mouth. Don't manage the eyes. Reach back behind all of it, to the half second before the feeling spikes, and decide, and mean it, that this is not an emergency and you do not need it to go your way. Let the thing land. Feel how little it actually moves you. And the second face, the one you were never in charge of, will have nothing to give away for the first time in your life, because for the first time you handed it nothing to confess. The person across from you won't have that. Their face is still talking. The only difference now is that you're the one who can hear it.